There is a fine line in game design between making something genuinely engaging and making it psychologically difficult to stop playing. Why do I feel different when playing Factorio or Ark versus Assassin's Creed Valhalla? They all give you things to do and there's little downtime, but somehow it's not the same satisfaction. Many of the most successful games in the world operate on a precise formula: a loop of stimulation, reward, anticipation, and action. When well executed, this loop creates a compelling, immersive experience that encourages mastery and gives the player a strong sense of purpose. When abused, it becomes a digital treadmill where the player is constantly doing something, yet rarely feeling anything. This video is about the careful balance behind that formula, why some games handle it brilliantly, and why others turn it into a manipulative mess that leaves players burned out, confused, and sometimes outright ashamed of how they spent their time. At the heart of most modern games lies a concept known as the compulsion loop. It is a behavioral design structure that delivers a goal, encourages the player to pursue it through some form of interaction, and then rewards them for doing so. In theory, this is how most game mechanics function: defeat an enemy, gain experience, collect resources, craft gear. However, the strength of the compulsion loop is not merely in offering rewards, it's in spacing them just right, layering them carefully, and creating a sense of forward momentum that never quite runs out. Games like Hades, Dead Cells, or Slay the Spire are excellent examples of this system working as intended. They use quick feedback cycles to hook the player, but those loops are backed by skill expression, meaningful upgrades, and progression that resets often enough to prevent burnout. The rewards feel earned, not dispensed like candy. Even though the player is constantly engaging with something, each engagement feels intentional. The problem arises when designers begin to stack these loops without proper regard for pacing or purpose. Suddenly, you're no longer playing a game. You're clearing tasks on a checklist and it feels like a chore. In pursuit of maximum engagement, many live service and mobile games begin to layer multiple compulsion loops, daily tasks, weekly quests, login bonuses, limited time events, seasonal content, battle pass progression, experience grinds, random drops, and more. Each of these systems is relatively harmless on its own, but when they are all active at the same time, they form a suffocating environment where the player never feels caught up, never feels free to log off, and never gets the opportunity to engage with the game on their own terms. This is particularly common in free-to-play ecosystems where retention metrics are critical. A player who logs in every day and completes 5 tasks is considered engaged, regardless of whether they are having a meaningful experience. As a result, systems are designed not around creativity, expression, or exploration, but around efficiency, optimization, and compliance. What gets lost in this process is the soul of the game. The sense of play is replaced by a sense of obligation. The world becomes a UI screen, the character becomes a spreadsheet, the experience becomes about staying current, not about enjoying the moment. Over time, players begin to mistake this constant stream of dopamine hits for fun, until eventually the illusion breaks and they realize they haven't actually been enjoying the game, they've just been busy inside it. Speaking of keeping busy, ever since I started making videos a few months ago, I've been learning a lot, and sometimes I'll have success and sometimes I'll fail, which is perfectly fine. One thing I learned is that you are not subscribed, and apparently this matters for videos to be pushed more. So feel free to do so if you like topics like this. Effective game design is about pacing, not pressure. When compulsion loops are implemented with care, they create a sense of flow, a rhythm of action and rest, intensity and relief. The player feels swept along by the systems, but they never feel overwhelmed by them. Their choices remain central to the experience. They are not being manipulated by artificial scarcity or punishment-based incentives. Instead, they are choosing to stay engaged because they want to explore the systems more deeply, not because they are afraid of missing something. This is the crucial distinction between flow and friction. Flow happens when mechanics align with a player's curiosity and skill. Friction happens when those same mechanics are used to block progress until the player jumps through artificial hoops. In a balanced game, a player can walk away at any time and return later without feeling like they lost anything. In an exploitative one, the player is punished for logging out. The fear of falling behind becomes greater than the desire to play. Games like Stardew Valley or Terraria offer flow. You can leave and return days or weeks later, and the world will wait for you. You don't need to log in daily to collect anything. There are no timers to manage or streaks to maintain. The systems respect the player's time and allow them to engage at their own pace. These games trust that the mechanics are strong enough on their own, without the need for psychological traps to retain players. Human psychology is deeply susceptible to variable reinforcement, which is the principle behind loot boxes and gear drop systems. The idea that the next chest might contain something rare keeps players engaged far longer than a guaranteed reward ever could. This system is not inherently harmful. In fact, it can be thrilling when used sparingly. The tension of uncertainty, the joy of surprise, and the dopamine spike that follows a lucky pull can be part of the appeal. However, when a game builds its entire core experience around that mechanic, it trains players to chase not enjoyment, but unpredictability. The reward becomes the only reason to keep playing, even if the gameplay itself is no longer fulfilling. Eventually, the absence of rewards becomes emotionally punishing, even though the player has technically lost nothing. Their time feels wasted because the game taught them to measure value only by loot, not by experience. This creates a dangerous cycle. Players begin to optimize their play around reward frequency. They choose the most efficient activities rather than the most enjoyable ones. They become increasingly disengaged from the moment-to-moment gameplay and hyper-focused on outcomes. The game stops being about the journey and becomes entirely about the numbers. At its worst, this kind of design can begin to resemble gambling more than gaming. In the business of modern games, retention is often king. Many teams are asked to optimize for KPIs like daily active users, average session length, and returning user rates. These are not inherently bad metrics. They do tell a story about player interest, but they can easily become a trap when used in isolation. A game that keeps players logging in every day is not necessarily a good game. It may simply be an efficient manipulator of habits. Designing around retention alone often results in systems that are built to consume the player's time rather than reward it. Instead of designing content that is worth exploring, companies design content that must be consumed on a schedule. Limited time events with exclusive rewards are the most obvious example of this. Players are pressured into participating, not because the event is particularly fun or meaningful, but because the window to earn something will soon close forever. This breeds anxiety and resentment. Players begin to feel like the game is controlling their calendar. They no longer play out of interest, but out of obligation. When they finally walk away, they do so not with fond memories, but with the bitter taste of burnout. There are still many games that use engagement loops in thoughtful, respectful ways. Games like Monster Hunter World offer deep progression, layered systems, and meaningful rewards, but they are not structured around constant timers or artificial urgency. You progress at your own speed. The grind exists, but it is clearly telegraphed, and the game trusts you to manage your own pace. Hades is another excellent example. Every run gives the player a set of new choices, builds, and challenges. The meta progression layer adds incentive without pressure. If you stop playing for a week, nothing is lost. The game does not penalize you, it simply waits. Even Vampire Survivors, a game built around constant stimulation, understands its limitations. Its sessions are short, its unlocks are rapid, and once you've seen what the game has to offer, it allows you to step away with a sense of completion. There is nothing in the game design that pressures you to come back tomorrow. Addictive game design is not inherently unethical. Many of the most engaging systems in game history, from Tetris to Dark Souls, have addictive qualities. They are compelling, challenging, and deeply satisfying to master. What separates good addiction from bad is the presence of respect. Respect for the player's time, respect for their autonomy, respect for their intelligence. A well-designed game doesn't need to manipulate players into staying. It trusts that the experience itself is worth returning to. It offers rewards, but it doesn't weaponize them. It encourages play, but it doesn't demand it. And most importantly, it allows the player to walk away feeling satisfied, not trapped. The future of game design should not be defined by how long a player can be kept online, but by how well their time is spent while they are. Retention is not the enemy, exploitation is. Designers must constantly ask whether the systems they build are offering joy or just extracting attention. Only then can games remain what they were meant to be: spaces of curiosity, wonder, challenge, and play.